Hello, everyone. I just want to welcome you to today's open house for the MSc program with Alef Trust. That is beginning in September. We're now into mid to late June, and we're just about to the point where we need to start receiving applications. It looks like we're going to have a pretty good cohort this year. My name is Nick Theo. My apologies because I'm using the Alef Trust screen. I'm the program manager for the academic programs for the master's and PhD, and frequently for people who are coming into the Alef Trust. Thanks, Fran. Um, is my role is in admissions. So I'm usually your first point of contact for many of our applicants. We usually have at least a one-on-one session through Zoom or WhatsApp to discuss your interest, your ambitions on the program. So today we have members of the Alef Trust staff and also current students and alumni joining us, and each will share their perspective on the program. And then later we'll have ample time for Q&A where you can ask more, pointed, detailed questions about the program. And then I'd like to add, subsequent to this session, I think it's scheduled for next week on the 27th. I do is what's called an application workshop. We don't record those. It's more informal, and folks just kind of drop in, and we work on different specific questions you may have about the application or coming into the MSc program. And I'll bring that back up at the end of the session. But right now, let me introduce you to Dr. Kendra Ford, who is the academic program lead for the MSc, and then she will introduce you to the other members of the team and students and alumni. So over to you, Kendra.
Thank you so much, Nick, and welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be here with us and to learn a little bit about the Alef Trust and the MSc in specific. I'm going to take a few minutes to just talk about kind of our teaching philosophy and offer a little bit of general information around the program. This is the last of our series of open houses. And in previous sessions, we've had a little bit more specific focus on year one and year two, and have kind of talked about some of the really specific elements of the different modules within those years. So if you're interested in, after today and learning a little bit more generally about the program, if you want to kind of learn a little bit more specifically from the module leaders on those modules, Nick can help signpost you to those sessions so that you can kind of, uh, learn about those modules a little bit more. The MSc is a 3-year program. The first 2 years are module course based. Students are taking 3 modules in each of those first 2 years, and in the last year, students focus specifically on a research topic. They've chosen something that they want to focus on. They've developed a research question, a research method, and then they work mostly one-on-one with a supervisor. There is some overarching module structure to that, but really essentially that 3rd year is dedicated to students focusing on their research. The way in which and I'll talk a little bit more about the structure in just a minute, but the way in which we approach education in Alef Trust and within the MSc is within what's called the transformative learning paradigm or framework or philosophy. There's different ways to look at it. It's been developed over many years, and there's a lot of teaching practices that we incorporate that are, from things that we have learned from theory. And then there are a lot of ways in which we incorporate transformative learning based on our own learning. We've been actively working with these teaching methods as a staff and faculty and with students for many, many years now. And every year we have conversations around how can we do this better? And it's not just about making the academic experience sort of better, so to speak, but is also looking at how can we make the academic experience relevant to what's going on in the world and also the changing landscape of education, particularly online education. And how do we do that from an embodied place, right? As faculty, we talk a lot about embodiment. We talk a lot about, and we work with embodied practices and reflective practices. And so that's a huge part of what's incorporated into the curriculum. How do you take in what you're learning, the content, the theory, right? The things that you're reading, listening to lectures, etc. What is it that you're finding meaningful in your life, and how are you incorporating that into your life? The goal of this MSc is really to, there's multiple sort of aspects to it in that we want the program to have a deeply personal, transformative um, process for the students who enter the program. And we want the students to also be fully equipped academically, research oriented, and professionally to re-enter the world or incorporate what you're learning throughout the academic program into perhaps a professional practice that you're already in. And so there's that both and element to the learning that we offer within the MSc, right? How is what you're learning providing some sort of uh, meaning or sense making for you in your world personally and professionally? And what that means, or how that sort of looks like in practice, is that we really ask for you to be fully engaged, right? To really bring yourself into your education in a way that sometimes might feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because it's in that space of being uncomfortable that we begin to open up into something new, that we begin to learn and grow. And so I think you'll probably hear this. We have a couple of students who are alumni and one student who's going to be entering into the third year, and I'm sure they'll speak to some of this, but the the scholarly work has a level of high rigor to it. We take a lot of pride, I should say, in the content and how we teach and the methods that we teach and what we're teaching within the program from a scholarly perspective. And because we are engaged within this transformative paradigm, we too are coming at it from our own transformative experiences, lived experiences, and understanding of the material to then be in dialogue with you. How are you understanding this? How is this landing for you? What type of meaning are you making uh, with this content and the work that we're doing within Aleph? And so what that looks like. Let me give some grounded sort of explanation of how the program is sort of designed. And we also have Dr. Ellis Linders here, who teaches in multiple modules across the program. So Ellis, feel free to come in at any time if there's something that you want to add, and I'll make some space too. But the first year of the program is really a foundational year in which we invite students into their own personal process. There's one year-long module called Learning Through Integrative Practice that is offered, and Dr. Ellis Linders is the module leader on that module, so maybe she'll speak to this one specifically in a minute. But this one is really about you developing your own personal development program and being supported and supervised through that throughout the academic year. This is where the personal comes in. How are you integrating the personal? What does that look like? How are you taking care of yourself? How are you supporting yourself from multiple different perspectives and domains? Alongside that module in the first term is approaches to consciousness, which is really providing that content, the theory, introducing you to some of the main ideas within consciousness, both from a mainstream perspective and also from a transpersonal perspective. And then the second term, there's spiritual psychology, where you're introduced to multiple different ways in which spiritual psychology is being implemented within different fields of practice, all within sort of this core understanding of contemporary um, psychology or contemporary spiritual psychology. So the first year really develops this foundation in embodied knowing, understanding, and being with the material from a more transformative um, perspective and understanding. A lot of unlearning happens in this first year. There's a way in which we've all been taught to learn within sort of traditional educational systems. And so part of that first year is really sort of getting on board and developing and cultivating within yourself an understanding of what does transformative learning mean for you within the MSc, right? The second year then kind of shifts more towards research-oriented skill development, scholarly development within sort of a research paradigm. How might you envision applying these skills and what's being learned in the MSc out into the world? So the research design module is the year-long module that's happening within year two. And alongside the research design is transpersonal psychology and applied transformative psychology. We just had a session earlier today, where we got some feedback on this second year, and it was really clear that the second year, I mean, we hear this feedback year in, year out, but the second year really is um, a year where students really kind of grok like what is research about, even though, right, there's still a lot to be learned because even as faculty, we're in a constant learning process. But really, that second year is where these ideas and understanding, or at least the ability to navigate research, really becomes a little bit more clear. And then, of course, that third year is when students are then engaged in their dissertation process. And what I'll say around that, the dissertation process and focusing on one particular research topic area and question, is that students come into the program along a spectrum. There are some students that come into the program that have a very specific, clear idea. This is what I want to focus on. This is the topical area. And they focus on that in every single module in some way throughout their entire MSc. There are students that come into the program that are very broad and open. They may have just sort of discovered transpersonal psychology, which may be the case for some of you here, right? You just kind of happened upon this transpersonal psychology program and you're just starting to dip your toe into it to understand. You don't even know what the options are. And then by year three, students who come sort of with that more broad interest level have a more focused understanding of, here's a topic and focus that I want to uh, dedicate my third year to. So what I want to just offering that so that you know that you don't have to come into the MSc knowing exactly what you want to focus on in that third year. There's a lot of support around that to develop your ideas and topical interests. So Ellis, I'm wondering if you have something you want to offer that might be helpful. Maybe there's something I've missed that feels really crucial to share today.
Yeah, it sounded pretty comprehensive. I would say as well the first year may be a little bit of a culture shock for you because of this whole process of unlearning and what that actually means. So that what that actually means is to um, question your positionality, your perspectives, the things you think you know, and then to really pick that apart. But it's also about developing further capacities beyond the cognitive mind that you're used to in mainstream academic learning. So you will be encouraged to develop um, somatic knowing, intuitive knowing, knowing of the heart, interpersonal resonance, all of those aspects that really come in to qualitative research as well. There's all kind of skills that you will begin to build in the first year, and that will really give you that foundation to proceed, because of course we are drawing very much on transpersonal studies, transpersonal theory, which in turn is very much based on what we might call the spiritual traditions of this world. And so they each have their own technologies, if you like, of consciousness expansion. other ways of knowing and so forth. So we really draw on that. So we're really, in a way, we are an ongoing dynamic experiment in what we're doing as a teaching approach, in that we're trying to balance this rigor of the academic structure, and within that create this container, this cauldron where you can then really explore your own transformative processes. And I think you will find then, I think what I'm seeing is that people who arrive in the first year with a really set, there's a saying, human beings plan and God laughs. That's kind of what happens in our course, because I think you will find yourself greatly changed by the time you get to your third year. And I'm sure the alumni and Scott as well, entering his third year, can speak to that. So I'll leave it at that, but I'm here if you want to ask further questions about that.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, and I think just before I hand it over, I think the other thing I'll just say too is that students that come into the Aleph Trust tend to be a more mature student, meaning they've had some life experience, right? And students tend to come from multiple different backgrounds. We've had students who have PhDs in psychology. We have, counselors and therapists. We've had lawyers. We've had a lot of people come through that come from various different corporate backgrounds, finance, marketing. So there's no requirement to have a psychology degree in order to enter into the MSc. And actually, it creates quite a dynamic community to have so many people from so many different backgrounds be involved in the MSc, and students within the MSc, yeah, and arts too, because it adds to the dialogue that we are all engaged in around transpersonal psychology and the various different ways in which these ideas and states that we learn about and work with within the MSc are experienced and incorporated in different sectors of professional life and in the world. And so I think what I'll do now, we'll have time most certainly for Q&A and dialogue um, uh, at the end of this or towards the end of the session, maybe middle to end. But I'm going to hand it over to Francesca Hector, who is somebody who has gone through the MSc and has served as staff with Aleph Trust for many years, and is now also a PhD student in our PhD program. So she's a great person to talk with. She has multiple different layers of experience, and she'll introduce the alumni and current student that we have here today.
Thanks, Kendra. And it's really lovely to see everyone here. Welcome to the open house. And we do hope to welcome many of you in September if you feel this resonates. And as Kendra mentioned, people do come to Aleph Trust from different backgrounds, different professions, different countries. We're a very international program with students online across all continents except for Antarctica. And people come with different ideas, but often a sense of values and of exploration of whole person learning, what it is to be a whole person with our many dimensions. And alumni graduates of the program go on to express this, share this in the different fields that they're working in, and bringing this deeper way of being, which is developed. Is the personal development as well as the academic and professional development that happens through the program. So I'm really delighted to welcome Alva and Elizabeth, who both graduates from the program, and Scott is current student on the program. And I'm really keen to hear from you. What's Alba and Elizabeth, what have you gone on to do after the MSc? How has this served you in unfolding your paths? And if there's some highlights or some insights that you'd like to share about your journey through the program and beyond. I know you're both up to very interesting things. So Elizabeth, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you to all of you. Yes, I would like, first of all, I would like to summarize where I'm coming from. I'm coming from the world of finance. I was a former CPA, chartered public accountant, and I worked for the UN, United Nations, as still in administration and finance. But in parallel, I was studying psychology because in the international organization, we are working with people from different culture. So I was studying in one part psychology, and the other part I'm doing my job as a financial expert. So. And but suddenly I saw Alef Trust, an advertisement in Alef Trust. I participated to such a session as we have today, and I was really happy because suddenly, I mean, I can study psychology and tradition, spiritual tradition all together. So, and for me, it's changed my life, really. I mean, it was really a huge change. I mean, about self-knowledge. First, sometimes I was angry against Elise because she pushes us to go deeper and deeper inside ourselves to know who we are exactly. What is our role in this earth, in this world. I mean, it was very, very interesting. So I started to write some books. I started to write some articles. And now what I would like, I created an association for transpersonal psychology to be known in a francophone world, not only in the anglophone world, which is and this is my project. But it changed my life. And I would like also to say, it's not only a teaching, academic teaching, it's also joining a community. During this period, I have a problem because my mother passed away. I mean, and I really felt the support of a team. I mean, they were there. Each time I have a question, they are there. I have friends within the pupils still there. I'm very happy to see them with different life, different projects and things like this. I mean, I met filmmakers. I met a mother, which is it's amazing. And I studied a lot during my life because diplomas and whatever. So academic world I know, but finding a community is not so often. Really, it's very rare. And here I really thank Alef Trust for building up this community around all these years. So if you have questions, I'm here.
No, thank you, Elizabeth. Yes, you've certainly been on quite a journey. It continues. And Alba, over to you. Thank you.
Okay. And hi, everyone, and thank you for inviting me, Francesca. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, I would like to just introduce myself briefly. I am a teacher of higher education of psychology from Barcelona. And yeah, during the program at Alef, I was especially drawn to the modules on creativity and spiritual psychology, and also transpersonal coaching. These modules really opened something up for me, and they inspired the development of my own integrative approach, which is combining transpersonal coaching, archetypal psychology, dream work, active imagination, and somatic awareness. And I remember during the module of spiritual psychology, we had experiential sessions working with Assagioli's methods for subpersonality work. And this hands-on work got me diving deeper into Assagioli and Jung. And yeah, the symbolic language, this just opened up something for me. And we were also introduced into organic research during the master's as a methodology. And that really clicked for me because it's an approach that allows for an emergent intuitive process, which felt very aligned with the kind of research I was doing with archetypes, dreams, symbols. And so it really worked to measure psychospiritual development. And it gave me a framework to stay grounded and embodied, and to work with empathic resonance with my coaches, with the women who were receiving the coaching sessions in my research. And then I would also like to mention that in the creativity module, we were encouraged to experiment and express ourselves freely. And that was the moment when I started to apply Jungian active imagination, imaginal psychology to my own dreams and imagery. And I'm really thankful for this module because this became the foundation of my master's research, which I carried out with 5 students. And later on, based on this research, I continued. I wrote an article for the Journal of Transpersonal Research. And most recently, I presented a book based on that, which is called Archetypal Synergy, Archetypal Coaching, Creating Synergies Through Archetypes and Dream Work. So yeah, it was great. The masters gave me tools and inspiration and trust to follow my own creative path. And I am grateful for all my teachers and especially with Jevon D'Angeli, the teacher of transpersonal coaching, and his method of open awareness, which is a very embodied transpersonal coaching method. This is a somatic practice that supports embodied and expanded states of consciousness, and I could integrate this type of practice with my approach. And so yeah, I'm really grateful for having studied here at Alef, and right now very happy because of my book is going to be published in Routledge in August. So I had great experience in terms of learning and being able to continue my research. Yeah.
Alba, thank you. And again, if anyone has any questions for our alumni, Alba and Elizabeth, there'll be plenty of space for that. And Scott, if you'd like to come in.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Francesca. So my name is Scott. I live in London. My background, I have a degree in commerce and law from Sydney University. I came to the UK 24 years ago, just initially for a working holiday and didn't go back. So it's another story altogether. And I've had a career in finance and law for the last 20 years, working in London and New York, and really exciting, interesting career. And at the same time too, I developed an interest in, I guess, well-being, spirituality, some mainstream and more alternative practices. I qualified as a yoga teacher. I've done all the yoga training. I've done mindfulness teacher training, and also a well-being lead at the financial organization which I currently work with, in a financial related role at present, covering regulatory policy. So very world away from consciousness and spirituality and transpersonal psychology. But as I was getting older, I always enjoyed writing. I had a blog for many years, and I was finding that my writing there was a drawing towards something that had more rigor. And I was initially thinking about doing a degree in osteopathy, and I had a conversation with Nick and others, and I just decided that no, this wasn't the path for me. And then there was something about this master's, and it was a spiritual psychology module in particular that I was quite drawn to. And I enrolled in it without any real understanding of what the course was about, or shall we say, in terms of the depth of the course. I knew that obviously it was a master's program and many different aspects to that. But I went into it with this, maybe a sense of naivism, but there was a sense of curiosity and openness. And coming up about to enter my third year, to think that what I have, use this word loosely, but achieved in this sense in terms of how my writing has improved in terms of when I first started. I remember I went to an open house before I applied and listened to a lady presenting saying she got a distinction in approaches to consciousness, and that really inspired me. And I didn't get a distinction in approaches to consciousness. In fact, I'm far from it. But I learned so much from that experience that actually the tutor was so supportive of me that in my second year in transpersonal psychology, I got a distinction. And I just saw the evolution in my academic development, thanks to the very supportive and caring nature of the staff and faculty. So just to emphasize that really it's a very supportive environment. I can't speak for other master's programs, but just what I hear anecdotally, that may not be the case in other programs across the board. And what I've loved the most about it is that if I were to, I guess, how I think about the course, there's a strong academic component, but there's a strong experiential component, not just in terms of the practices and the modules, but there's a real sense of bringing your own first person experiences encouraged in your writing, which I think provides more depth. If you're a reflective type, you can really bring that into your writing and your experience. And it just adds a different flavor to the whole course, that you can really talk about your own experience, and your own experience is valued, which may not necessarily be the case in other scientific disciplines. And I really just love the fact that Alef is so open to feedback. As Alice said earlier, there's a whole creative circle process, which I'm a student rep, and we get feedback from other students, and we provide that feedback to the faculty, which is then used to improve the courses as they go into later years. So it's very interactive. They listen, they try and improve, and you just grow. Like for me, like I think as Kendra said, like, second year's focus on research. I didn't really have any understanding about research. And now coming into my third year, really excited about what I want to research. And what you learn through that process, there's a real emphasis on the researcher becoming transformed through the process itself. And it's so true, because I think qualitative research is very different to quantitative research in terms of, you're part of the experience, and you're really taking so much from that experience because it's qualitative by nature. So, and just to give you an insight in terms of what it's like to do the course. So, if there's any sense of overwhelm or people feel it would be too much, when you face it on the face of it, it's like approaches to consciousness and so forth, such a maybe a high level complex topic. It really, the approach is to ease you into the course. And it's actively encouraged to take a strategic approach, read what you're interested in, read what you have to, and let that process guide you, and you'll figure out. I mean, I still work full time, or I've just reduced my hours to part time, but up until recently, I've been working full time and able to get through the course. I wouldn't say with ease, but a sense of being able to get through the course with the sense of being able to meet all the deadlines and so forth. So really, if you're curious about this course, I think it is transformative. I've always, what I'll do after this course is another question. Yet I'm starting to see the seeds being planted already, which is very interesting, and that will continue to evolve. And such an array of topics to choose from, whether you're more focused on mindfulness or so forth, or more into psychedelics, or somewhere in between. You'll find your space to really just embrace the content and the knowledge that's within the staff, and the staff have such a wide range of skills and interests, and you'll definitely find your space. And I really recommend, if you're looking for a program to really just expand your mind, because it does expand your mind. Once you study consciousness, as they say, you'll never look at life the same again. And I think that's certainly true for my case. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. You've touched on so many aspects of the program and your own experience here. And maybe hand over to Nick.
We're coming up now, we're mid to late June. As I've mentioned before, we have a number of applications coming through, and we're looking forward to receiving your applications. There are several components to the applications, and if you have any questions about that, we can get part of that discussion besides the academic. You will need, if you have any academic transcripts, and that can include non-credit classes or courses you've taken that are applicable to our field of study. It doesn't have to be exactly, let's say a master's program, bachelor's, whatever, something that called to you. And it also helps us during the application process to better understand who you are, your interest and what are your goals, your reasons for joining the course. There is also the components of the personal statement, and anyone who's attended these sessions always hears from me, speak from your heart, but write it out, an essay, an academic. We're looking for you as the person. It's more than just reading, a bunch of books and then writing a wonderful essay, and we give you, gold star, pat you on the back. That's the intellectual part. The more important part to our program, and from the inception of this program more than 30 years ago, we view success where the student has gone through some form of inner transformative process from attending the course. And I have seen some amazing changes in students over the years. And for me privately, when we come to graduation day each year, I look at our graduates and I think back, it's been at that point 3.5, 4 years since our first discussion, and some look physically different. And you can tell that they found that thing that's important to them. The other part of the application is the essay. And this is important. In the British system, your grade is almost solely to the essay. We want to make sure you have a successful way forward in the program. And we're all here to work with you in that. It's not as difficult as many make it. And you do not have, you can choose the referencing style. We're looking how you put your ideas out. Can you do it succinctly? Again, if you have any questions on this as you're completing the application, please let me know. Now, I see there's a hand up. Hope I pronounced this, Maratib. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you so much. My name is Maratib. I'm participating from London. I'm successfully entrepreneur and raising a family. I was becoming entrepreneur from 10 years ago, and I stumbled upon spirituality because of the extreme ups and downs in the life in many perspectives. And then that made me curious to explore life coaching, and then it converted into the spiritual life coaching, and then it converted further into business coaching, and then it transformed into the works of a great spiritual teacher and writer, for example, Dr. David Hawking from America, psychiatrist, then Eckhart Tolle, then perennial philosophers and then phenomena or field of actualization. So my basic question is, if I join this program, will my personal interest or the intellectual learning from these authors which I named or with you, I can still incorporate their work within this degree as well, because I'm a keen reader, researcher, and broadcaster on a limited level, and I want to go further formally if I incorporate these intellectuals or plus a lot of other people which I come across. That's my first question. The second question is, if I join this MSc program, the learning experience in person has more significance in general academia, whereas this course is completely online. I understand it. Will there be any limitation because everything is online, and the genuine experience with interaction with spiritual teacher, authors will not, I come across. Will that make my experience of learning and actualization will be very limited during this 3 years of MSc? And my third question, last one, is because I'm a family person, I have a responsibility and obligations. Will I be able to do this degree as part-time, like on a weekly basis, gradually, slowly, along with my entrepreneur role and with my family responsibility, because I'm 45 plus by age? So these are very quick questions, so anybody can answer. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
I'll answer your third question first, and then make a comment on the two, and I'll turn it over to Ellis and Kendra, who can go deeper into the program. We have people who come from all walks of life. They have, responsibilities to their home, their family, their job. It is possible to do it. It will require discipline. Also, keep in mind that as much as we're an online program, we do maintain the traditional semester schedule. So, because there are certain online programs that go 52 weeks a year without a break, with us, know that you're always off in the summer. I mean, for those who are here in the Northern Hemisphere, you're clear completely from the beginning, first week of June until the fourth week of September, plus 1 month between December, January. And there's also a break in the spring for 2 weeks where there are no webinars, but you will likely be doing some research work in writing. So just to, for everyone to know that you do have points where you could just walk away from this and attend things elsewhere. As a general statement to your first two questions, it will enhance what you've already done. I have seen over the years with students where something they read, a specific author or lecturer sparks something new, and they begin to synthesize. So you've already stated you are doing these activities, and at least 35% of our students do that. They go through this inner transformative process during the course, and they begin revising their business plan because now they're seeing something more of who they are. That's going in, and that's what we tell people is in a fun way, the great unknown. You're going to expand into areas you never imagined. And to be open, anticipate that. Also, with the program, even though it is online, we do our best to be present, to connect. So it's not you're just doing your work and you email it in, you never talk to people. There are aspects especially in year one through learning through negative practice, where you are coming together in small groups. And again, another benefit that is to any academic program tied to your modules, we do bring in guest speakers and guest teachers. So for all of our students, and we tend to open that up to the whole student body, so it's not necessary to your specific course. And we've had a number of the well-known authors and researchers over the years. So over to you, either Ellis or Kendra, to give more depth to the first two questions.
Yeah, maybe Ellis, do you want to take on question one and I'll take on question two? Because I want to take on question two, and there's some other questions in the chat that relate to that I think I can speak to all at once.
So, question, if I can remember it, because there were quite a few, it was quite a long questioning, but if I understand you correctly, it kind of relates to what I mentioned about perspectives, understanding your own positionality and then expanding from there. So actually no one comes to this course as a clean slate, right? Everybody, I've been doing this, I've been working on this course for 13 years. Every single student has had some kind of experience, has some kind of background in spiritual practice, for instance. And so everybody comes with their own knowing and passion and experience. And so none of that is going to be lost. You're just going to be building on that, and you're going to be using that in a way as a springboard. The problem comes when that gets in the way sometimes, when you're that invested in a certain perspective. And that's kind of where the transformative aspect comes in. It's like, okay, where's this serving you? And then where is it in a way getting in the way because you are looking this way, and because you're looking this way like this, you can't see the rest, kind of thing. So a course like this will encourage you to look at the rest. Okay, if that makes any sense. I would also stress that this is a course in transpersonal studies, which incorporates spiritual development, but is not solely focused on spiritual development. And sometimes there's a sort of a fuzzing of the two that we talk about in LIP, for instance. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks, Ellis. And then I want to speak to, there's been some questions about the webinars and the format, time and all of that. So I think I can speak to all of those components kind of together. The program is considered part-time. We generally suggest that it takes around 20 to 25 hours per week, to sort of set that aside, knowing that there's going to be weeks where you're probably going to dedicate less time because there's just less things going on that really require you to be focused. And there's going to be other times where it might, take more than 25 hours because you're writing an essay or you're working on a project that's coming to completion. So just know that it's 20 to 25 hours, and it can be more or less depending on what's going on in the program. When it comes to webinars, at any given time in the program in years 1 and 2, you have 2 concurrent modules running. In the second term, in both year 1 and 2, there is an overarching module, and then there's what we call option modules. So essentially, you're in 2 kind of main modules and then 2 smaller ones, so to speak, kind of a framework. You're going to have webinars probably it might end up being every week or every other week throughout those first 2 years, knowing that in some cases there might be a webinar every couple of weeks or something like that. Each of the webinars for the modules are on specific days of the week. So when you get the calendar, which we will, for anybody who applies to the program, gets accepted, there will be materials going out sometime in August around calendars and dates and things like that. So you'll have a sense of, oh, on Mondays is when I'm going to have transpersonal psychology, for example. So you know how to sort of set up your week ahead of time before the academic year starts. What I will say about the webinars is that all of our webinars are taught live. Some of you may have done online learning before. Some formats are very, based on recorded videos, and then you submit assignments. We engage in education in a much more interactive, embodied way. So our webinars are taught live, but they're also they're all recorded, except for the reflective sessions that are part of the learning and integrative practice in the first year. Those are mostly because those are small groups. The topics that are explored are much more personal and intimate, and it's also an assessed part of the module where you have to attend live. We conduct a survey at the beginning of the academic year to collect everybody's availability in time zones, and there's a Tetris that happens to place you with a supervisor who meets your time availability. So, we ensure that for those sessions that you have to be there live, that you can actually make it there live. There's no requirement from an assessed perspective that you attend the webinars live. We do encourage it if you have the availability, but we recognize, people have families, they have work, they're in different parts of the world. I live in the United States. I'm in Pacific time in California. So if a webinar is at 10 a.m. UK time, that's 2 a.m. my time. So we recognize that that's also the case for many of you, where the timing of the webinar may actually be at a time when you're asleep. Although I think a few of the Australian folks that are in the program, some of them have woken up at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. to attend a webinar live, just because there's a feeling, there's a sense of that, coming to a webinar live allows for the interaction that you might not otherwise get. So I think that touched upon several of the points that I saw in the chat, but if there's something that I've missed around this, please feel free. And Nick, if there's something else that you've seen as well, or if there's questions, please.
Yeah, I just would reiterate what Kendra said. We have had students from going west Hawaii time zone to the furthest east New Zealand, which turns out to be 21 hours. So we just about have the globe covered. And the students have been able to do that. Some, if you want to participate, yes, a couple times a month, you may have to get up at 2 or 3 in the morning. And I've heard back from the students, they valued that time. They valued the connection because you're also building a professional network. And also, I think as Elizabeth stated at the beginning, personal friendships develop. So you want to be engaged. You want to be present for these. Yes, Lorraine.
Hi there, Nick. Hi, everybody. I've just put my video. So Nick, you and I have had a conversation before, and I just wanted to touch a little bit further on the conversation that we had, and just try and find out whether this is something, the course would be something that would be relevant for me personally. So my background is, I didn't really know anything about transpersonal psychology as a specific discipline. And when I happened upon it, so when I happened upon the trust itself, and I read all of the information, it was almost like a light bulb moment went off, purely and simply for the fact that that's just how I've been living my life for many years. The interests that I've had and the personal development and journey that I've been on has touched upon many of the areas that you're actually going to be teaching. When we had a conversation, I let you know that I don't have a degree, a foundation degree. I've just finished my second year of philosophy and psychology degree at the moment, and I'm enrolled onto my third year. But an awful lot of my past experience in various different things in yoga and mindfulness, in Ayurvedic studies, I have qualifications in all of these different areas. And there was 2 parts really. First and foremost, is it more sensible for me to just finish this degree, to finish the last year of the degree before I actually apply to yourselves? And secondly, I suppose because I've gone through, I feel as though I've been through the unlearning process. It's one of the reasons why I didn't study traditionally in the degree route. I took my children out of school, we did home learning. So I've studied a lot of those different areas. And I'm just wondering if it would be something that would be able to build upon all of these areas, if there's so much crossover, and I've done so much kind of deep work individually, is it something that is going to be able to enhance that in any way other than just potentially give me a professional qualification at the end of it, I suppose?
Yes. Okay, to your first question, make it broader for everyone
Okay.
because a lot of people contact me this. I would say overall, please finish your degree program before coming to us. I think also for the incoming student, it makes things better. I get probably at least 15, 20 times a year, they just want to jump straight into the master's program. They're not done, or they want to overlap. And just as a side, we will not admit a student if they're already in another program. It does not work. You cannot serve two masters. Very early in my time at Alef Trust, we did it a couple times, and the people crashed and burned really in 4 to 8 weeks. So just finish everything in due time. When you're ready to graduate, contact me. We'll get everything ready. I'm going through that right now with several applicants because they get their application in and then they get their approval for graduation. In fact, we just had one applicant with that a couple days ago, where he finally got his bachelor's degree clearance, but we're already reviewing the application. We have you slotted so you could be part of the cohort. So in that sense, the second one, you would be what we would consider typical, like the big middle of people who do come into the program. Um, there will be aspects of this program, of the research you do, that will sharpen your skills and better prepare you, and you'll be better able to take all these other courses, use them and apply them professionally. And this is where your inner creative process comes into play, because it's not a formula that says A plus B equals C. You could see things from a different perspective. You can take these skills, put it under the umbrella of the MSc, and create a more professional avenue or context for what you're doing. And
Okay.
I would say with
Yeah,
someone
I'd
like
like
you,
to,
oh, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I just want to say really generally too, to this point that um, the way in which we teach and the transformative paradigm, this really goes for everybody. It has the ability to meet you where you're at. And I think that that's a really important piece to remember. I mean, we as faculty and staff, we work with this material year in and year out, and we are constantly learning and growing and building both professionally, academically, and personally. I've been teaching in the field for over 15 years, and I came into my graduate program with a lot of experience and certifications underneath me. And I feel like just now I'm like really starting to land with everything. So I think no matter where you're coming from, you can enter into the work from that place. And I think it's less about what do I know and what am I bringing to the program from my own previous learning, but how am I approaching the learning? In which ways am I engaging with this material and this work in a way that's allowing me to grow both in my professional and personal understanding and content and theory of these topics that we focus on within this degree, but also how am I allowing this work to support me in and my growth professionally and personally. So I think it also really depends on how you approach the work, on what you get out of it. And I think that that's a big value of the transformative paradigm.
Thank you.
Hmm.
I suppose, sorry, if I could just ask one more question as well. I don't think I clarified myself very well initially. So I wasn't suggesting that I would be studying for the third year of the degree and this consecutively. I suppose my query would have been whether or not it's something that I could consider not doing the last year of the degree, which the reason being is I'm not finding it particularly challenging. It's very
Oh,
interesting, but it's not areas that I've not looked at before. I
oh,
feel as though I'm jumping through hoops.
oh, I'm sorry, Lorraine. Yes, it is possible if a student want to stop along the way. You can stop at year one, end up with a PG cert, or if you want to go for the full 2 years, then you could go with a PG diploma. You would just have to notify the staff your intentions once you get into the middle or late of year two. So we make sure all the paperwork is taken care of from
sorry.
our end.
Yep. Sorry again, I don't think I've been very clear. I mean,
Oh,
so my study process at the moment is that I'm studying a philosophy and psychology joint honours degree, which I've just finished the second year of. I am enrolled into the third year of it, so I've got the diploma. I'm enrolled into the third year, but would it be a potential for me to, rather than doing that third year and finishing a bachelor's degree that I'm not finding particularly challenging, in order to tick a box says that I've got the degree, would my previous learning and experience and, you know, my personal journey be taken into consideration so that I could potentially start with the master's program with yourselves in September? I mean, I'm very confident.
okay. Okay, going back to that,
academic.
we have to take it on an individualized basis. There's no way for any of us to make a blanket statement on whether you be accepted in the program or not. Also keep in mind, one of the factors on a master's level, and it's not just us, it's all master's level, we want to know if the student's going to go the distance. So do keep that in mind when someone says they want to jump, part way through a bachelor's or all, it may be a minus column on one side, and you may have everything on the other side going for it. But again, it is individual. We're looking at the whole application. That's why the personal statement, you may be able to articulate everything that you said and saying, this is why I need to be there, and fine, we got it. For those who are reviewing the application, the quality of your reference letters, etc. So there are so many factors involved. So there's no way to say yes or no on that. Okay, so it's like on that. And Ellis, come into that. I'm also going to ask for Ellis or Kendra to address in the chat box about, can the program also help with processing trauma and blockages, because we do have to keep boundaries with that.
I just want to address Lorraine, because I do feel that your question is consistently misunderstood. I just want to say yes. If you are in your second year of an undergrad, that means that you do have an academic foundation. You may choose to finish your degree just so you have that. But if you're feeling that it's not where you want to be, certainly, so both Kendra and I are on the applications team. So we will be the people looking at your application. So I just want to kind of clarify what we look at, right? What are we looking for in an applicant? And certainly it's life experience, your ability to write a comprehensive piece, that doesn't have to be academically perfect, but it certainly needs to, what we're looking for is, can you critically engage with certain concepts and ideas? The personal statement is really for us to get to know you a bit, to get the feel for you. Are you the kind of person that would do well on our course? And by the sounds of it, with all the experience that you have, it sounds like you are. All the life experience and professional experience that you bring in, including your 2 years of academic foundation, I think you'd be okay. But of course, we would have to look at your application. But I really don't want you to feel this, what do you call it, stopped from applying, because it sounds like, if you resonate with this, then it sounds like you need to be with us. I don't want to sell it, but
No, thank you, because that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah,
So it's like,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, I'll let Kendra address the processing trauma, and so that's an important question. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote a response in the chat. I think to clarify, because I think the question also came up a little bit earlier too around the nature of the degree. The MSc is a research oriented degree, so it's not a practitioner oriented degree. So while we might cover some topics that have to do with coaching or therapeutic practices or clinical practices, we're not actually teaching that, though it's not a licensing program where at the end of these 3 years you're then qualified to do therapy with people. And also, if you're coming in with something where you're hoping that you're going to be doing your own therapy through the program, I would most certainly suggest that you have a therapist or a group that you're like a co-counseling group or a counseling group that you're working with alongside the MSc. When I went through my PhD in transpersonal psychology, it was actually a requirement that we had counseling because there was this understanding that transformation is going to cause some shifts, and having somebody who you trust and support to help you incorporate and understand those within the context of your own life, because you don't always have that. We don't have the clinical capacity, right, within this focus of the MSc. It's just certainly not the focus. But of course, you might learn about modalities or theories or practices that can support you in, the type of healing that you, in particular, are looking to engage for yourself. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, I think we're definitely over time. So I think maybe Nick, if you want to close us out for today, and suggest
Sure.
next steps. Yeah.
Sure. First, I want to thank everyone who attended today, and there'll be a number of people who will be watching this afterwards. Thank you for taking time out in the day to join us. I did put up in the chat box, I'll put again, this is the link to access the application. I am fully available to work with you, get you ready to get your application submitted. You have any questions, please get in touch with me. For the majority of the applicants, I start building a relationship with them. This is important for us in Alef Trust, and it's somewhat different than you'll see in many online programs. There are a number of online programs. You pretty much just submit your work, email it back and forth, where there's very little human interaction. We do our best to bridge that. We are coming now to mid to late June, so we really urge you, if you really want to be in the program, please get your applications in within the next several weeks, because time is required to review the applications. The program starts orientation third week of September, and then classes start the following week. But there are steps to get you registered into LJMU at the start of September. So as we're backing up, there's not as much time as it appears with that. But we will work with you, even if it's somewhat later. Once we get into early August, it's getting harder. We have to do really fast turnaround times. And then also it's getting your reference letters. And that normally takes another 10 days to 2 weeks after you do your application. And your application will not go for its formal review until we receive those reference letters. So even if you put your application in tomorrow and then receive letters, we're already into middle of July at that point. But again, I would work with you. If we don't receive the letters, I will be in touch with you saying, hey, can you contact your referee? We haven't received it yet. So again, thank you. And also to the Alef Trust staff who attended, our students and our alumni, thank you for coming out for each of these sessions during this year. And I wish everyone well. Okay, good afternoon and good night, or good morning, depending where you are. Okay, so long.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.